Hello and welcome to Closing Day. My name is Jeff Delgrand and I'm your host. Closing Day is a real estate show that's all about every aspect of real estate. Buying, selling, financing, refinancing, renovating, staging, appraising, every aspect of real estate we cover. And our hope on this show is that you'll pick up some information, get some tips that'll help save you time, money, and help your whole real estate experience become more enjoyable. Today, what we're going to be talking about is real estate investing. Now, we've done this before, but what's unique now is my guest today is a real estate investor who, in this market, has bought and created huge value in a home right here locally, and did this all within a period of a few months. Jamie Blacklock, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you as well.
And
Thanks,
among other things, you are a real estate investor.
Yep.
And
fairly new.
Yes. Yeah. And you bought a home for, it was $342,000, and within a few months got the value up to $428,000, just shy of a $100,000 uptick in just a matter of months.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
So what I'd like to ask is not how you did that, we'll get there, but what was your thought process to start?
Well, my wife and I had actually talked about this for about 10 years.
Yeah.
And then we saw what was happening within the market. And they always tell you when you're investing, you know, you got to get in early, early. But really, it didn't matter for us. It was really about how do we get in.
Yeah.
And so what we did was we spent probably about 9 months looking. And then we knew that we wanted to be in the market.
Right.
And we knew that timing was going to have to be on our side versus on the other side. And that's really what was a key advantage for us. Right, it was really about that timing.
Okay, now timing-wise, you bought like in pretty much of a peak of the market. Right?
Correct. Yes,
so
we did.
The market didn't continue to carry up. Like it didn't lift you at all in value.
No, it did not.
So you found something that was a bit of a sweetheart, obviously
Yes.
a bit of a gem.
Yeah, I was lucky, and we had a great real estate agent.
Yeah.
We had a great broker,
Yeah.
yourself
Thank you.
included. And we looked at the market for a long time. We looked in Orangeville for a long time, and to be honest with you, we'd actually almost written Orangeville off.
Okay.
We looked at about 25 houses overall, anywhere spanning from for Orangeville over to Guelph up to Collingwood, and then lo and behold, we managed to find the opportunity here in Orangeville. And again, it was really about patience. We knew where the market needed to be for us to invest in order to make sure that we had the proper cash flow in that investment.
So what is it you were looking for in an investment?
So we were looking for a rental, right? We had looked at things like, were we going to flip a house? And we had talked about that. We know a lot of contractors in terms of that.
Yeah.
And we also looked from, is the house going to appreciate over time? Right? So again, looking at what you just made that comment about whether or not we were at the peak or not, we absolutely probably were, right? But we wanted to get into something that we could, basically gain some more revenue over time, that when we went to look to sell, that we were going to be able to make a profitability on that. And again, looking long term, we also started looking at, how are our kids going to be able to afford a home? So this was our entry into the market in the sense that when our kids are old enough, then we can pass this down in generations in terms of the strategy.
That is an interesting and a really good way for financial planning, because you're quite right. 40 years ago, people could buy homes just by assuming mortgages, and it was a lot easier than it is now. And now I don't think many kids can afford a home without mom or dad's help.
Correct.
And in the future, I think it's going to be even harder. Many nationalities or countries in this world, most people rent. They don't own. Home ownership is held to the few. So I like that idea of doing the future is to planning for your kids. So you started looking. You said in the whole area.
Correct.
Fortunately, you found
Absolutely.
one that happened to be in Orangeville, which is good. And was there certain things you were looking for in a home?
Yeah. So we really were looking at. So we did look at a single family dwelling. Okay.
Yeah.
Challenge with a single family dwelling is that, again, more patience, right? You need to be able to find the house that's going to meet the criteria that you needed to from an investment perspective, and make sure that you're going to be able to carry it based on where we saw the rental market in the town.
Right.
We also knew that there's a serious crunch on the rental market here in Orangeville, and as well as there is in other communities across Ontario. So that was a key criteria for us, and in making the fact that it was a duplex was also very key as well, right? So that way we could look at that dual income style of a property. So it helped with the overall manageability of the property.
So you're getting dual income from a property.
Correct.
And at the same time, you're helping with a rental crisis.
Correct,
right?
absolutely.
You're helping in a market where people need places, and you created a couple of new places for people to live.
Correct.
And so you looked at a duplex. You talked a little bit about some of the criteria you're looking at. I guess physically, is there something you're looking for physically in a building? Brick, wood, sticks, stones?
Well, so again, I think like every investment, you look at the things that are most obvious, right? Mm-hmm. So say from a brick and mortar's perspective, we want to make sure that the house is sound. Right, so we were very lucky that we had some contractors that we knew very closely that had the opportunity to look at the property with us.
Okay.
So that was a key part of our strategy to make sure that are we going to run into an issue?
Yeah.
You also want to make sure that things are fairly sound. So we did our due diligence in terms of making sure that from a plumbing perspective, we're not going to run into issues, electrical, all those kind of things. So you absolutely want to look at everything that you would look at in terms of your own home or a home that you're potentially looking to buy for yourself,
right.
You're going to look at that as well, right? Because again, when you start looking at what am I going to have to do over the next 5 years into this property affects the overall, based on the income in terms that you're going to be able to get per year.
That makes sense. Now, did you have a preference whether it was a house in town or was it in the country, or how would?
In town is preferred, right? And again, you want to make sure that you're very close to, say, a bus route.
Yeah.
Right. You do want to have a location, right? Really, you have to find a place within town that gives that tenant the opportunity, if they don't drive, the opportunity to get access to facilities within town, right? Be it whether they're going to the Alder Arena, whether they're going to the hospital, whether they're simply going grocery shopping. They need all access to those amenities. So looking outside of town, we had contemplated outside of town.
Right.
That might require a different style of a tenant, right? Based on what we were technically looking for here in Orangeville.
Right, so you get better quality tenants, well, not better quality, but more options of tenants.
More option of tenants for sure.
Okay, that makes sense. And then, because most people, especially if they're not driving, they have to live in a town.
Correct.
Right, so you're stuck, not stuck, but that's how it has to be.
Correct.
So the location, you sourced a place that was in a town, which is good. And then the physical structure, you had people come in and help.
Correct. Yep.
Plumbing, electrical. Mm-hmm. And you wanted a duplex. That was something else you needed to see. Was there something about that type of house that you had to have to make it a duplex?
Well, obviously the town does a great job at creating some forms in terms of what you need to do to make sure that duplex is legal. So we went through the entire process and to make sure that we're going to be able to do all the work. We qualified. A lot of that was actually done within the house that we bought because it actually was previously a rental.
Okay.
So we actually had a lot of the work already done for us. For example, fire rated doors, these kind of things, making sure the correct burn rates are in the ceiling from one floor to the other. Oh. So there was a whole bunch of things that from a rental perspective we needed to make sure that we stuck to in terms of the accordance to the bylaws.
Okay, and what are sort of the highlights of the things you have to watch for? Your fire rating you were talking about.
Yeah, so you definitely got to make sure that obviously there's 2 exits, right, for each floor, right? And again, there's some criteria wrapped around that. You definitely need fire-rated doors, right, to make sure that you've got that. You've got to do things like making sure that there's a proper burn rate between floors. So
a burn rate is?
So in terms of the amount of time, should a fire unfortunately happen, say in the basement, how long it would actually take for that fire to get into the next level. Okay. And it's really about timing. It's about how long it would take that potentially tenants or 2 tenants to get out of the house in order to get out, right? So we had to follow those criteria. We did a bunch of upgrades within the house that we technically probably went over and above, but again, that was really based on the fact that we wanted a better resale value down the road.
So you're investing in yourself, really.
Correct.
You're doing that. So when you're renovating the house, you're getting materials. You had contractors. With contractors, how do you pick those out? How do you find contractors or good contractors? Well,
like anything, I've been lucky enough that we've lived in town for a long time. My mom and dad came up here in 1979, so we've been here a long time. I've been lucky or blessed that I've got a very, very strong network of people that are in the business, be it on the plumbing side, be it on the general contracting, heating and cooling, all those kind of things. So really it's about the people that you trust. I don't necessarily go down the road from a cost perspective. It's really about getting the work done correctly the first time and as opposed to, well, yeah, we got it all done. we're finished,
Yeah.
and then I get the phone call from the tenant because something happened incorrectly. So it was really making the conscious decision to go with the right contractors out of the gate. Some of the contractors I knew were busy,
Yeah.
which is, can be an issue, but I was lucky enough that all the stars aligned along that month and a half to 2 month kind of journey to get the renovation.
Right.
And we did floor to ceiling renovation. All the
Okay.
floors were done, 2 kitchens were done, 2 bathrooms were done, some walls were added, some were taken away that weren't load bearing, and a ton of drywall.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's something. So you got to line up the contractors. So you subcontracted the job yourself?
Well, actually, I did some of it myself.
Yeah.
Although I can carry a hammer, there's some things that I'll stay away from. Plumbing is my nemesis, so I leave that to the skilled people.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I pretty much organized everything along with that. And then we had our general contractor in and day out throughout the entire process.
Okay, now is that something you think would be difficult for the average person to do, or?
No, it's not, right? I think, when you look at your own home, you've had contractors in that you trust. We had a small window.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was time to market for us, right? We wanted
Yeah.
to make sure that we could get tenants in there. That can be a challenge.
Yeah.
But we also, the people within my network knew that we were buying a house, and it just happened to come down where we had a very short closing, which might not have been optimal for us in terms of lining up those contractors. But yeah, we did that.
You were able to make it
Yeah,
come together.
we made it work. Yeah,
Look-
we had a few delays, countertops. We had a little bit of delays on some of the heating stuff, but it all came together.
So you had like a general contractor, a plumber, electrician.
Yeah.
Anyone else specialized? Like drywaller, I guess? You said you tons of drywall.
No, so the general contractor handled a lot of the drywall.
Oh,
I
really?
can do some mucking and all that kind of stuff myself. So there
really?
wasn't a ton of that. It was just from the previous renter, just making just cleaning stuff in, and then a bulk of the time was paint. Well, so we put paint,
Yeah.
rollers in the family's hands because this was a family effort as well. So everybody got the phone call from Jamie and Julie.
You did the paint party phone call, right?
That's right. It's like, come on over, grab
be
a brush, and away we go. Right.
It's gonna be like a barn raising, but with paint instead.
Correct.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a brilliant way to do it, and you're able to do it yourself. So that's
Correct.
That's good. You don't need special expertise, just common sense, I would guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that I think is going to make people feel a lot more comfortable knowing that they can do that. Now, a couple other things we're going to cover, not right away, but one is I want to talk to you about materials.
Yep.
Where do you source those out? And the other thing I want to talk about is I want to get the answer to the question: what do you think is the number one most important tip you can give to an investor? Okay.
Okay.
We'll be right back right after this.
Perfect.
Welcome back to Closing Day. My name is Jeff Delgrand, your host, and today I have with me Jamie Blacklock, real estate investor locally, who's been giving us some ideas and tips on investing even in the peak of a market. And you've done very well, Jamie.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate that.
And the one thing I brought up earlier on was this house that you purchased. Oh, gotta put my glasses on for this one. For $342,000, and when it was appraised, not sold, because the appraisal values are actually less than what a sale value would be in many cases, especially with the refinance. It appraised at $428,000. So that is an increase of just shy of $100,000 on a property. that you renovated.
Correct.
And rented out, so it carries cash flow and all that. How much money did you have to spend on the property to get it that far?
So we spent about approximately $20,000 of our own money. And again, our budget initially was probably much lower than that.
Okay.
But again, through advice of people in the industry, people that already rent already, said, look, you know, there's a few areas that you definitely don't want to chintz out on. So again, we did things like faucets, right? We revamped the bathroom. We revamped 2 kitchens. This place already had 2 kitchens. Technically, we probably didn't need to go there.
Right.
But again, it was really looking at the end of the rainbow, right?
Yeah.
In terms of what we're going to do in a short time frame in order to maximize that overall return on value. So it was approximately $20,000. And again, that included the labor as well, right? So we had one person was definitely there, 1 and 2 actually were there pretty much the entire time from November 7th until we finally had the tenants in January 8th.
Okay, so about 2 months.
Yep.
$20,000.
Yep.
And almost $100,000 return.
Correct.
That is an amazing return. I know there was some sweat equity you had to put in as well.
There was a few late nights for sure.
Yeah, you look at anybody who invests in mutual funds, stock market, anything, and you look at the return you can get on real estate, like you were able to turn around. And I keep pointing this out, but it's so important. It was in a market that was not going up. I mean, it wasn't tumbling down, but it definitely was not going up. If anything, maybe it was softening a bit. So to have that turnaround, and it wasn't like it was an exceptional home, that there was only one of those homes ever, right? It was it was an in-town home.
Yeah, it was in town, right place at the right time. They always make conversations about that as well.
Yeah.
And again, our understanding of the market, because we had spent about 9 months, doing a ton of research, let alone the time that we had taken before we decided that this is the time we're going to get into this market.
Yeah.
We really knew where the house values were here in Orangeville. We knew the difference between, say, a single-family dwelling versus a semi-detached, and what really that was going to look like. So, and again, when you look at networking with folks like yourself, our fantastic real estate agent, they know the market, right? They're there to help you through this journey, right? So we also knew that, hey, guess what? What are those houses going that are of similar look and feel on that street? What are they going for? And that really, for us, was invaluable.
What was the best way to get that information, like knowing house prices? Where would you suggest or advise someone to go to get that?
So we worked very closely with our real estate agent, Linda Horn.
Okay.
Right? So she was absolutely critical for us. And again, been in Orangeville a long, long time. She really helped us through, hey, this is where these houses are.
Yeah.
And then she would also, give us information in terms of the rental market as well, right?
Okay.
So it was very key to get that information from that. We didn't necessarily look at the MLS or anything like that, or the paper in terms of where those values were. It was really leveraging the understanding of the market that we don't have. That's not the business that we're in day to day.
Right.
So we needed to leverage the help of the people that are in that business, very similar to folks like yourself and Linda.
Yeah, well, the real estate agents get the values of what houses actually sell for. Where
Correct.
we look on MLS or Realtor.ca, we just see what they're listed for, and that's really that's not reality.
Yeah.
And that's something that people, they get their heads messed up sometimes, especially when they're looking at Realtor.ca, thinking, oh, values are here, when sale values sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. That's where a good realtor definitely comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. And we would see even from an Orangeville perspective where a house might have dipped, as you mentioned, about 3%. Why was that? Was it timing? Was it the middle of the summer? So we absolutely stayed tight to that.
Yeah.
The other key thing was just really getting an understanding of where we as a family needed to be, and the comfort level on the house that we were going to get based on the rental income that we were going to get as well, which again was a very, very key part of the equation.
Okay, so that's an important. You now have a house, you've got a mortgage, you've got other expenses, you've got rental income. What do you look for in all those numbers that makes it a go or a no-go for you?
Well, for us, you actually made the comment one time before to us, making sure that it's carryable.
Yeah.
We absolutely needed an understanding to make sure that a house was carryable. Let me tell you, after looking at 25 houses, I could narrow it down to $1, whether or not we were going to be able to carry the house. And again, the carry is not just the mortgage. The mortgage is actually a fairly easy part of the component because you can absolutely, at whatever that percentage is, you know what your payment's going to be for a set amount of time, be it a 1 year, 3 year, or 5 year, or 20-year mortgage. It was the untangible things like, okay, if this blows up, what's going to cost you? It was the roof. It was the maintenance that you were going to, if you looked at investing in a condo, what was that going to be included? So what we did was we actually, you actually gave us a spreadsheet that I use, and I also have a property analyzer that I use that would also, at the end of the day, we would put in all those numbers, and it would tell us what our return on the investment property was. So we were lucky enough that it was approximately 11% over a set period of time, but also at the end of the day, was that property carryable?
Yes.
And by the time we looked at the rent and we looked at taxes, we pay a lot of money in taxes, right? So you have to include that in that dollar value in order to make sure that you can carry that piece of property.
Yeah, taxes are almost like another mortgage payment these days.
It's another mortgage payment, right?
Yeah.
So we had to include all of those little pieces. Insurance, you need to include insurance because guess what? That is part of your investment.
That's right.
In order to make sure that you've calculated all those line items in that spreadsheet to make sure at the end of the day there's a positive growth at the end.
Yeah, I totally agree. The cash flow is got to be positive. You know, it's like that business acumen that maybe we're losing money on every sale, but we'll make it up in volume.
Yeah.
It makes no sense, right? You just can't do that. That wouldn't happen. So this way, it doesn't matter really what happens with the market. It doesn't matter what happens with it because rents don't really move much, do they?
No, they don't. And again, the Landlord and Tenant Act, right, is certainly putting their thumb on newbie landlord as ourselves. But you have to adhere to the laws, right? You can't just go out there and set a price limit that's not acceptable to the market. Right. So that was a learning curve, right? I'm part of a Facebook group called the Ontario Landlords Watch. Again, very, very valuable for people that are new. We have a local group that we actually, we're having a meeting this Saturday as well. Again, their information that they passed along to us as fellow investors was definitely a huge amount of value to us.
So tell me about this local group. A local investment group, is it?
Yeah, so it's basically some local landlords, right?
Yeah.
Laura Geiger actually helped set it up, and it's people that are investing in real estate here locally in Orangeville, in the Orangeville area. So when we look at Fergus, Orangeville, Shelburne, Caledon, it's people that are investing in this market and want to learn. Right? The market is changing so fast, and you don't know all the rules. Or in our case, we hadn't rented before, right? We didn't know what we were in for. There's things you got to be aware of in your addendums and these kind of things. So their information that we've been to at least one session, and our next session is coming up on the 24th. The value that the information that we share during those sessions is extremely valuable.
Now, is there a way someone who's interested could become involved with one of these group meetings?
Absolutely. I think you've got my information. They can reach out to me. Again, from our perspective, it's really about sharing information and making sure that we're doing all the right things together, and we learn from each other. It's like, hey, what are you seeing over here, or what are you seeing over there, and what are the gotchas, right? Again, it's in a market that you've never been in before. You can get caught very, very quickly by not doing the right things the first time.
That's great. I won't be around for the next meeting. Unfortunately, I'll be away. But is it every month or so? Or
yeah, it's every month. That's when we're trying to plan. Absolutely.
I'll catch the next one for sure. That sounds really intriguing. Now, we talked a lot about renovating, contractors. Now, materials.
Materials. Yep.
Where do we get materials from?
Well, materials is a very interesting thing. So again, English, Scottish background. I look for deals, right? The reality is that everybody should be using a price match of some sort, whether you believe in home hardware that's local here to Orangeville, Home Depot, Lowe's. We really exhausted those programs, right? In terms of making sure whether I was going to get drywall, because drywall is drywall, right? I wanted to make sure that I was getting drywall at the right price. Baseboard is baseboard, right? So do your homework, shop. Right? If a 2-4 of lumber is $1 more at your favorite store, shake that person's hand and say, look, can you price match it? They are willing to price match for you because they want the business. And it's not that they're overpriced. It's just that you need to shop. Right? So do your due diligence. We ran a spreadsheet, as many people do, and we said, look, we need 42 sheets of drywall. Where am I going to get it? right? So we looked at online. Online, definitely the internet. If I had to do it manually, it would have been much more difficult using the phone.
Yeah.
I would walk into a store and I'd look at toilets.
Oh, okay.
And I'd say, because we replaced all the toilets. So I would look up and I would say, and again, looking for quality first, right? Not necessarily the lowest toilet on the market.
Right.
Because again, I wanted to make sure that a toilet was going to work
Well, of course,
for
you
a
don't
longer
want- you
period
don't
of
want
time.
that
I don't
call
want
at
that
3
call.
in the morning.
I don't want that call, right? So we wanted to make sure that we got, it wasn't the super high-end stuff that we might look in our own home, but it had to be something that was functional and it was at a price point that we wanted to pay.
Okay.
So we weren't paying the $400 for a toilet. By the way, I'd never pay that. But we
Yeah.
weren't necessarily paying for the $89 toilet either.
All right, so price matching, that's a great idea.
Price matching was very key for us.
Yeah, especially in this day and age where everyone's got one of these, you can easily look something up, find the value of it. And
Yeah, and every big box store has a sale,
this is true.
right?
Yeah.
So again, along this journey, you know that you're going to be replacing specific things that are part of your list.
Yeah.
I need to replace a vanity. Where do I go for that? Now, the other thing that was very, very key for us as well was the restore.
Oh, right, right.
The restore, I recommend anybody doing a renovation, go to the restore, right?
Oh.
We actually picked up all of our doors for the basement at the restore.
Well, that's neat.
They were in brand new condition.
Yeah.
Somebody just might not have liked them. Not every restore is created equal. So
Right.
do your due diligence. Look once a week, and again, based on the
Okay.
list that you have.
All right, I'm going to ask you quickly because we're running out of time, but what number one tip could you give people who want to invest?
Jump in the market, right? And I'd say number one, do your research,
Okay.
right? Really do spend the time to understand what you're getting in for
And do your homework.
and do your homework.
All right. Well, thank
And
you very
that's
much, Jamie. I really appreciate all that information. It was a ton of information in a short period of time.
Appreciate it.
And I want to thank everyone out there for tuning in. And I hope we got some good tips and help you save you some time and some money. This is Jeff Del Grant on closing day. Thank you and have a good day. There you go. and welcome to Closing Day. I'm Jeff Delgrand, your host. And Closing Day is a real estate show that's all about everything to do with real estate. Buying, selling, renovating, financing, staging, you name it, we cover it on this show. Our goal here is to give you some tips and some information that are going to help save you time, money, and make your whole real estate experience more enjoyable. Now today we're going to talk about homes, but a specific style of home. And we're going to cover it as heritage